If you're from Tobago, you need to hear this story. But if you're from Speyside, Tobago, I need you to tell me if you've ever heard this story before. Now, this man is Panchoo Campbell. And Panchoo is from Speyside. Or is he? So let's get into his story, right? He died in Speyside in 1938, December 1938, at Batu Bay, where he had been cared for by Miss Edna Whiteley, an American lady who owns Batu Bay. After having seen over 11 decades pass on Earth, so he was like, what, 110? Although he was gone, I cannot leave him out of this book, for his history is too interesting and his name deserves to live on in Tobago. As a boy and young man, he lived in a village in what is now the French Congo. Then came one dreadful day in 1850 when Portuguese slave traders descended on the village. Now this 1850, and slavery should have ended in 1838. All right. Now, with many others, Panchoo was driven down to the coast in misery and degradation, a slave to be sold like so much cattle. The unfortunate men were herded on board a slave runner and shipped in despair towards America. The slaver, however, was unlucky. A sail appeared on the horizon and then the hull of a ship. The strange ship altered course and bear down on the slaver. There was no escape, and this strange ship was actually a British frigate of war. So at the time, slavery would have ended, but of course there were people who were still engaged in the slave trade. And what was customary is when a slaver was trapped like that, they usually tied weights to the slaves and threw them overboard so that they would not be caught with slaves on their ships. Luckily for Panchoo, all of the slaves on board were taken off the slaver safely. Once they stepped on board the British ship, they were considered free men. However, the policy at the time was not to return slaves or enslaved people found on these illegal slavers back to their countries of origin. So then basically he was brought. Now, here's the thing. I don't have the rest of the story. I don't know if he was brought to Tobago directly. I don't know where he was taken. But this is the end. This is the last page of the book. His picture is the last page of the book. So if you're from Speyside and maybe your last name is Campbell, or maybe you heard the story before, interact with this content and let me know. I'd love to hear. You know, apparently he had this amazing life. Like, you know, I would really love to hear the rest of this story. If you want more Tobago friends,